The crack was so loud, I thought the floor had split in half. But it wasn't the floor. It was my leg. And the man standing over me, breathing hard, eyes full of rage, was my husband. My name is Emily Carter, and I lived in San Diego, California. From the outside, my life looked perfect. A beautiful house near the ocean. A successful husband. A calm, respectable marriage. My husband's name was Jason Miller. He worked in real estate. Charming. Polite. Always smiling in public. People used to say, "Emily, you're so lucky." I believed them. Until that night. That evening, I came home early. Jason told me he'd be working late, but his car was already in the driveway. My heart started beating fast. I walked inside quietly. I heard laughter. A woman's laughter. Coming from our bedroom. My hands started shaking as I pushed the door open. And there he was. My husband. With another woman. In my bed. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just reacted. I walked up to her and slapped her. Hard. The sound echoed through the room. She screamed. Jason turned around slowly. And in his eyes, I didn't see guilt. I saw hatred. "How dare you?" he shouted. I stared at him in shock. "You cheated on me." He grabbed my arm. I tried to pull away. That's when he pushed me. I fell. Pain shot through my body like fire. Then, he lifted his foot. And stomped. Crack. I screamed until my throat burned. The woman ran out. Jason didn't even look sorry. He leaned down and whispered, "This is what happens when you embarrass me." Then he walked away, leaving me on the floor. Broken. Bleeding. Alone. At the hospital, the doctor looked at my x-ray. "Your leg is fractured," he said gently. Badly. Tears rolled down my face. Not just from pain. From betrayal. From fear. From the realization that I had married a monster. At midnight, I held my phone. There was only one number I hadn't called in years. My father. Michael Carter. A man I had stayed away from. A man with a dark past. A man everyone feared. They whispered one word when they spoke about him. Mafia. I swore I'd never involve him in my life. But as I stared at my broken leg, I pressed call. "Emily," my father said. I broke down crying. "Dad." Jason broke my leg. There was silence. Then his voice turned cold. "Who touched my daughter?" And in that moment, I knew. Jason Miller had made the biggest mistake of his life. My father didn't ask questions. He didn't raise his voice. He just said one sentence. "Rest, my girl. I'll handle everything." I hung up. And somewhere in the city, a man with power, money, and no mercy had just been awakened. At 3:17 a.m., my hospital room door opened. Not a nurse. Not a doctor. A man in a black suit walked in, and every police officer in the hallway stood up straight. My father had arrived. My father's name is Michael Carter. To the world, he was a successful businessman who owned shipping companies along the West Coast. But behind closed doors, he was something else. People didn't say his name loudly. Police didn't cross him. Enemies didn't live long enough to brag. When he walked into my room, the air felt heavy. His hair was gray now. His face calm. Too calm. He sat beside me and gently touched my hand. "My little girl," he said softly. "Who did this to you?" I swallowed hard. "Jason," I said. "My husband." His jaw tightened. "He cheated." I slapped the woman. "He broke my leg." My father didn't shout. He didn't curse. He simply nodded. And that scared me more than anger. Michael leaned closer and said quietly, "Emily, I tried to leave that life behind for you. But some men don't understand mercy." I felt a chill. "He will," my father continued. By morning, while I lay in my hospital bed, my father was already moving. Phones rang across San Diego. Men woke up in dark apartments. Cars started. Doors opened. My father's people, men who owed him favors, loyalty, or fear, were back in action. Jason Miller's name spread like wildfire. Jason thought he was safe. He was wrong. He was drinking at a bar near downtown, laughing with friends, pretending nothing had happened. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Jason Miller, a voice asked. Yes. You broke the wrong woman. The line went dead. Jason laughed it off. But his hands were shaking. At 2 a.m., Jason returned home. The lights were on. That was strange. Then he saw it. His living room was untouched, but every photo of us was gone. Every frame. Every memory. In their place was one object on the table. A hospital crutch. Jason's smile disappeared. Jason never asked about my family. He thought I was weak. Alone. Easy to control. He never knew that my childhood home had guards. That my father's dinners included men with scars and guns. That my silence wasn't weakness, it was distance. Distance from a life I didn't want. Until he forced me back into it. Back at the hospital, my father spoke to me again. I won't kill him, he said calmly. But I will take everything he thinks makes him a man. I looked at him, scared but relieved. For hurting you, he added, he will beg. Jason's phone rang again. This time, the message was clear. Come to Pier 9. Alone. He stared at the screen. Outside, a black car waited. And Jason had no idea. He was walking straight into my father's world. Jason stepped out of his car at Pier 9. The fog was thick. The ocean was silent. And every instinct in his body screamed one word. Run. But it was already too late. Pier 9 was abandoned at night. No cameras. No tourists. No witnesses. Jason walked slowly, his shoes echoing against the wet concrete. Then he saw them. 3 black cars. Men standing beside them. All wearing suits. All watching him. Jason swallowed hard. Hello, he called. No answer. A 4th car door opened. A tall man stepped out. Gray hair. Calm eyes. Perfect posture. Jason felt his knees weaken. Michael Carter. He didn't know the name, but his body recognized danger. You're Jason Miller, my father said quietly. Jason forced a smile. Listen, man, I don't know what this is about. You broke my daughter's leg, my father interrupted. The smile vanished. She attacked my girlfriend, Jason said quickly. I just lost control. Michael tilted his head. Lost control, he repeated. Then he nodded slowly. I understand. Jason relaxed a little. That was his mistake. My father snapped his fingers. One of the men stepped forward and placed a folder in Jason's hands. Your bank accounts, Michael said calmly. Frozen. Jason opened the folder. His face went pale. All properties under investigation, my father continued. Your business partners? Already gone. Your girlfriend? She left the country an hour ago. Jason's mouth fell open. You don't own anything anymore, my father finished. Jason stepped back. You can't do this, he whispered. Michael walked closer. I can, he said. And I am. Jason fell to his knees. I'm sorry, he cried. Please tell Emily I'm sorry. Michael leaned down, his voice ice cold. You're not sorry you hurt her, he said. You're sorry someone stronger showed up. My father stood up straight. Jason, he said, you will disappear from my daughter's life. If I ever hear your name near her again. He paused. You won't get a second warning. Jason nodded violently. I swear, he cried. I swear. Jason was allowed to leave. No bruises. No blood. Just fear burned into his bones. He stumbled back to his car, shaking. Behind him, the black cars vanished into the fog. The next morning, my father visited me again. It's done, he said simply. I searched his face. Is he gone? For good, Michael replied. I closed my eyes. For the first time since the night my leg broke. I felt safe. That evening, a nurse whispered to me. Your husband has been calling. I opened my eyes. And deep down I knew. Jason wasn't finished yet. At midnight, my phone buzzed. One message. From Jason. If I'm going down, you're coming with me. My blood turned cold. I was still in the hospital, my leg in a cast, unable to move without help. I showed the message to my father. Michael Carter didn't react. He read it once. Then he handed the phone back to me. He's scared, my father said calmly. Scared men make stupid choices. But he knows where I am, I whispered. My father smiled. Not kindly. No, he said. He thinks he does. Jason had lost everything. No money. No friends. No power. So he did the only thing he could think of. He went to the media. He contacted a small online news outlet and told them a story. A fake story. He claimed I was lying. That my father threatened him. That he was the real victim. The article went live that morning. My phone exploded with messages. Some people believed him. And that's when my father decided. Enough was enough. Michael made one call. Not to criminals. To lawyers. Then another. To the police. Yes, he said on the phone, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'd like to report a domestic violence confession. Jason had left messages. Voicemails. Threats. Every word recorded. Every lie documented. Jason was packing a bag when there was a knock on the door. 3 sharp knocks. Police. He opened the door smiling. That smile disappeared when he saw the handcuffs. You're under arrest, the officer said. For assault, threats, and obstruction. Jason screamed. This is her fault. They didn't listen. 2 days later, the full story came out. The medical reports. The broken leg. The messages. Jason's article was deleted. A new headline replaced it. San Diego man arrested for brutal assault on wife. People stopped calling him a victim. They called him what he was. An abuser. That night, my father sat beside my bed. You didn't have to destroy him, I said quietly. Michael looked at me. I didn't, he replied. He destroyed himself. Then he added softly. My job was just to make sure you were never powerless again. Jason's lawyer requested a meeting. He wanted a deal. And the decision? It wasn't my father's. It was mine. They wheeled me into the room. And there he was. The man who broke my leg. The man I once loved. The man who now looked small. The meeting room inside the courthouse was cold and silent. Jason sat on the other side of the table, wearing an orange jail uniform. His hair was messy. His eyes were tired. His confidence was gone. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of him. He was afraid of me. Emily, he said, his voice shaking. Please. I lost everything. I didn't mean to hurt you. I looked at him calmly. You broke my leg, I said. You threatened my life. Tears filled his eyes. I was angry, he whispered. I panicked. I leaned forward slightly. No, I said. You chose violence. There's a difference. Jason's lawyer cleared his throat. If Emily agrees, he said, Jason will plead guilty. No trial. No media circus. Everyone looked at me. The power I once thought I'd lost? It was sitting right there in my hands. I remembered lying on the floor, screaming in pain. I remembered the sound of my bone breaking. I remembered calling my father with shaking fingers. Jason watched my face, waiting. Begging. I agree, I said finally. Jason let out a breath of relief. But, I continued, I want full custody of my life back. They looked confused. I stood, using my crutches, and spoke clearly. He pleads guilty. No contact. Ever. No appeals. No lies. The judge nodded. Jason collapsed into his chair. Outside the courtroom, my father waited. He didn't ask what I chose. He just hugged me gently. You're stronger than me, Michael said quietly. I smiled. I learned from you, I replied. Jason was sentenced weeks later. The headlines faded. The noise died down. And for the first time in a long time, my life was quiet again. But this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. As I packed my bags to leave San Diego, my father asked, What will you do now? I looked at the ocean and answered, Live. The day I walked without pain for the first time, I realized something. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had already won. Recovery was slow. Every step hurt. Every night reminded me of that crack, the sound I would never forget. But I kept going. Physical therapy became my daily battle. I cried. I sweated. I fell once or twice. And every time, I stood back up. Because I had survived worse. I left San Diego. Too many memories. I moved to Santa Barbara, California, to a small apartment near the beach. No guards. No fear. No shouting. Just me. I changed nothing about my name, but I changed everything about my life. One evening, I asked my father something I had avoided for years. Dad, were you really a mafia man? He smiled sadly. I was a man who made bad choices trying to protect people I loved. He paused. I spent my life paying for that. I held his hand. And you saved me. He shook his head. No, Emily. You saved yourself. I just reminded the world you mattered. I could have stayed angry. I could have stayed broken. But anger keeps you tied to the past. So I chose peace. I started volunteering with women's shelters. I spoke to survivors of abuse. I told my story, not for pity, but for strength. Every time someone said, "Your story gave me courage," I healed a little more. Jason stayed in prison. He tried to write once. I didn't reply. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Forgiveness doesn't always mean contact. Sometimes it means freedom. Before my father left town, he looked at me and asked, "Do you regret calling me?" I shook my head. No, I said. But I'm glad I don't need you to fight my battles anymore. He smiled proudly. That's all I ever wanted. One morning, I stood in front of the mirror. No fear in my eyes. No shame in my posture. Just strength. I whispered, "You survived. And you're free." My husband broke my leg. He thought he broke me. But he was wrong. I learned that power isn't violence. It isn't fear. It isn't revenge. Power is walking away whole. If Emily's story moved you, like this story to support survivors, share it with someone who needs courage. Follow for more powerful, real-life, inspired stories. Remember this. No one has the right to hurt you. And no one decides your worth but you. What do you think? Share your opinion with us.